Welcome to Gamepinions episode 41. I'm your host, Calvin, and today I'm joined by the one, the only, Kim Kim.
Hi.
And now we're also joined by the guy who, in an emergency situation, used bubble tape instead of toilet paper, John.
I swear you have those actually written down, but you actually don't have what we're going to be talking about written down.
That's correct. So, guys, we are here today to discuss the Last Stranding, which is just our last episode, probably not, of Death Stranding.
Spoilers. Do not continue unless you have completed the game.
There's going to be major spoilers, and we're going to go into detail about those major spoilers.
Walking Simulator 2019.
All right, so Death Stranding was our game of the year for last year, and we kind of did it prematurely because we didn't really complete the game yet, I don't think. And John, I don't think you completed it at that point either, correct?
No. No. I was nearing completion.
Okay. So I was just going to, I guess, start this off with a question, and then we can kind of go into, I guess, more detail about it. But after completing the game, has your opinion changed? Like, do you think that we made the right call calling it our game of the year?
I'm starting to turn into more of a patient gamer, where I'm just not playing as many as the new games that come this year. So, I wouldn't back down on the opinion saying game of the year just because I feel like this is the most fresh game I played. It's come out.
Yeah.
2019.
Okay. What about you, Kim?
I don't think it changes at all. If anything, it just further assured me this is it. This is I haven't felt a game like this in a long time. Just how happy I was with the ending and the way everything panned out.
Yeah, honestly, I feel the same. I mean, I didn't really play a ton of new games last year, so honestly, I kind of feel like this, in a way, was kind of my game of the year by default. But I think that even though that kind of was the case, I still thoroughly enjoyed the game. And I actually really liked the ending as well. So I just kind of wanted to go over some of the things that I guess maybe we didn't really like about the game before we get into, I guess, what we really liked about it and then discuss the ending. So I guess I want to kind of throw this out here. What did you guys think of the controls? Because I felt like in the beginning of the game, like you're very limited in what you're doing and you're kind of just walking and you're kind of, exploring new places. But towards the end of the game, it's definitely a lot more action oriented. And I felt like the gun controls might have not been the tightest. Like they were serviceable, but they weren't really the best.
I definitely feel like, at least for walking around, when I first began playing the game, it felt really clunky. And I was like, oh, this isn't that bad if basically it is, just walking around. But around the middle of the game, it does switch to more of a combat-focused style. And I feel like the enemies are very fluid versus you, where you're basically doing a huge circle with your analog stick to turn around.
Yeah.
And you're hoping he doesn't jump off a cliff in the middle of whatever you're doing. So I feel like maybe if that was a little bit tighter, it would have been more fluid.
Yeah.
But it was still doable, if that makes sense. You could still play the game. It wasn't terribly janky.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, John?
Yeah, definitely. Like Kim said, you start out like thinking it's your typical open world game, but I guess it's open world. It's just more of just how you actually control Sam itself. The whole purpose of that is that you actually have to control him carefully. That's the whole gameplay of it, honestly. But maybe people think might sound weird. Think, oh, that's just boring walking simulator game. It's interesting though. Environments are pretty. You have all this equipment to go around, so definitely it's an interesting game. Controls are going to be really off from what you're used to, but I think it's kind of smooth, honestly.
Yeah, I think that some of the clunkiness also that you feel kind of plays in with what's going on, like on screen. Like if you're carrying around like a giant stack of packages, like it's gonna be clunky.
I will say there were times where you shouldn't have even been able to move.
Yeah.
Like the amount that's stacked on you, it's like, yeah, no, I don't even know how you're moving right now. You should have just like fell over as soon as you got out of the menu.
Yeah.
But I do understand like the clunkiness plays into. I mean, like when you're stripped down to nothing and how he moves, and I feel like that's how they gave him like a human weight value per se. Instead, is that's just kind of like how they made you feel like you were connected, and it kind of gave you a challenge.
Yeah, you
That
definitely
was the
feel that
challenge.
weight.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's probably what they were trying to do with those controls. It's not like we aren't able to make it a nice smooth thing nowadays.
Yeah.
We have all the kinds of things we need to do to execute that, but I don't want to be zippy doo dah day like Sonic or something when we're carrying a T-Rex amount on our back.
Yeah, and then once the weight gets too heavy, what you do is just you stumble over to your motorcycle and hop on and you're good.
Yeah, and you're
Well,
set.
I honestly, the motorcycle is a lot more clunky than anything else.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah, but the
motorcycle
balance
controlled
on
worse
that?
than the truck.
Yeah,
It
but
kind of did.
that's like
It was
perfect.
harder to get stuck on stuff in the motorcycle though.
Oh, that's true because you're thin. Like you got the whole thin thing going down, so you
Mhm.
can
But the
go
truck has
clear
that
rocks.
crazy hopping ability, which is looks
Yeah,
weird.
it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that was kind of strange.
But
But
cool.
it was cool. But actually the bike has the hopping ability too.
Oh yeah, the little jumping. Like, wait, no, no.
Yeah, you can jump cuz what I did one time is I went into one of the like the distribution centers, and as I was going down that ramp in the bike, right as I got to the top of the ramp, I jumped and my packages hit the ceiling and the bike slammed down and blew up. It's like,
Very
probably should
entertaining
have done that.
though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely really entertaining. And then like outside of that, there are little things that kind of bothered me in the game. Because I kind of had like a week or so now of letting the game process in my head. So I was trying to think as critically as possible about just certain aspects. And one of those issues is when you get stuck with the truck, and it feels like it gets stuck on things that it probably shouldn't get stuck on, and then the jumping ability doesn't work. So I kind of wish that they would have like patched that, I guess before the game was released.
That and the fact that I've seen actually a couple of bugs where you'll get stuck between like a hard place and the driver's side per se, and you're climbing out, and then you're just stuck. Like
Yeah,
you are
that happened to
stuck,
me.
stuck. There's no way to really get out of that situation, especially if you're in deep water. There's like,
Well, see, that was a situation where I was in the water, I was stuck in the truck, and I got out of the truck because it wouldn't move anymore, but it put me right underneath the truck. So I was basically stuck in the water, but I was pinned under the truck. So I couldn't go anywhere. And all my packages dropped out and they're just going to wherever that thing leads. Probably to the tar pit, I don't know. And I'm just stuck. I can't move. Like I can paddle, I can stand back up, and then it just pushes me right back down.
Honestly, when that kind of stuff happens, it tends to be the more entertaining part of games. Like, well, that happened. Now I got to figure this out.
Oh yeah.
bugs are always a little bit entertaining because you're like, oh my god, what's going on?
Yeah, but the bug part is
Mhm.
like it's a little bit different. Um, there's some things where you think you're gonna get stuck. Well, if you get stuck on the rock, you try to put your truck through it. That's 100% your fault. But for things where it shouldn't have gotten stuck, it's just like, yeah, kind of BS on that.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like
talking about the little rocks. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a little rock,
Yeah,
and now
and it
it's
goes like to
stopping
like
you.
the center of your truck, and it's just the wheels aren't touching the ground, and it's like
I
this
was
kind of
just going
sucks.
60, and this little thing put me at 0.
Yeah. So just like situations like that, or it's like you're just on normal land and your tire is just like underneath the ground. It's like
Oh yeah, it going into the map, which was
yeah,
odd.
it was just weird.
Like
It was
maybe it
really
was like a
weird.
mud pit. I couldn't.
Yeah, if the mud pit was green,
How
I
odd!
guess.
We didn't see any mud pits, or at least I didn't.
Yeah, not
That would have
really.
been nice.
Yeah. Yeah, not really. Um but yeah, so I guess just little things like that. I guess story-wise, there was some weird things in the game that I thought the writing was a little bit weird in certain areas. Like the whole game is weird, but like the whole, fragile, but I'm not so fragile, or whatever that quote is. It kind of got a little repetitive and old after a while. It's like we don't have to keep hearing that. It's a little bit
Yeah,
cheesy.
I really liked it for the one time part, and then the second time we've had it is like,
It's not like now they're both saying it and they're giggling, and it's like, I don't really like
it's
that.
yeah. I mean, those kind of lines make it more interesting when they just say it once, not when they just keep reusing it, because then it starts turning into one of those comedy show kind of tropes.
Yeah, yeah, and I wish that Higgs was a little bit more serious. Because in the end, he's just like, "Are y'all ready for a big old boss fight?" It's like it kind of was like, "All right,
That's a good Kojima thing. Kojima's in every single game. I think it's had at least one part where it's really fourth wall breaking in every single one of his games.
And the thing is though, is Higgs, who we're thinking is going to be this leader of the, terrorist group, is basically like crazy, psychopathic. But then I thought they were going to go, because of how odd the game is, a little crazy with that boss battle, but it really just felt like you put a redneck in a big mech. It was a little like, whoa. Like, this doesn't feel psycho. It just seems kind of more on the corny side. Not enough to ruin the game, obviously.
no, no,
But still, it was a little like, all right, let's get this done with, I guess. And it's odd that he keeps trying to. What's odd is he knows Sam can come back. And yet he keeps killing him. Like, he's actually going to be able to kill him, which was very confusing. You think you'd just, like, tie him up or something.
yeah,
But no, you have to kill him even though he's going to come back anyway, which I found a little odd to justify logically. But besides that, I think that Die Hardman's lines in the very beginning, to me, I probably scared a lot of people because he just kept telling you how important America was. Like, we get it. After the first time of you telling us to reunite America, if we go to 5 other knots, you should not repeat that line again and again and again and again. I heard it. I'm good. Let me listen to the music and just walk at
yeah,
that point.
yeah. He's like, "Come on, Sam. I thought we were reconnecting America." It's like he keeps saying it every time. It's like, this is vital for us reconnecting America.
I know. I was like, he's not country.
It's like, hey, Sam, if you want to connect this to the network, you just put your cupids on the little scanner.
It's like after the 6th time,
Yeah, it's like,
So that got a little repetitive, and it might have, like, kind of made the early
Sam,
starters
you cannot build
stop.
there.
Sam, you cannot pee here. This is a distribution center. You have selected no.
So it was a little strange how he was so repetitive because his character, to me, meant he was a really cool guy in the beginning, and then as he kept repeating himself, I was just like, just get this guy to shut up. And then by the time I saw him near the end of the game, I didn't really want to listen to him because I didn't want to hear the same crap again.
Yeah.
But he was very interesting.
He was, yeah, and they had like some nice little story twists with him. I think that there was, I feel like they kind of introduced Hartman a little bit late in the game because you didn't really see him at all.
They introduce everyone a little bit late in the game.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna have to kind of replay this game again, I think, because I don't remember the first time we even communicated with Hartman. Like, was it really early on that we talked to him? Because I didn't really remember that.
I think it was literally like once or twice and like very small.
He's there. He's there physically at the president's office. You don't interact with him, from what I remember.
Okay.
Correct. You see him because all the characters are there physically.
Yeah.
He talks to you a lot just because all these characters are just side characters trying to just help you out along the way as tips, like gameplay wise, just like tips and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he just comes along, and then you end up having to show up because he wants what's her name body.
Yeah, that's kind of the first time you actually interact with him, and that was really late into the game.
That was like literally 80 to 85% of the game that we got introduced to Hartman.
Which he was a good character though.
If you made it that far, the odds are you were going to complete the game, and that's where I kind of have a problem.
Yeah, like I thought that it was, just in terms of like the characters, I thought that they did a really good job of making you care about characters even though you're being like introduced to them pretty late into the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really impressed by that actually, because you kind of
I
feel
think
for Hartman.
Deadman was my by far my favorite character.
I like Dead Man a lot too, and I feel like he had a lot of, I guess, personal growth. Just from the beginning, he's just like, get rid of the baby or whatever. He doesn't really, he's thinking of it as like equipment. But then you see him kind of bond with, Lou or Louise, um, as, when he was kind of taking care of it. So it was really cool kind of to see him, even though he's kind of like, a Frankenstein monster type thing, pieced together, that
Which they didn't really explain that whole
they,
thing. It's just kind of it's that's what he
yeah,
is. It's like okay,
Yeah, they didn't really go into detail with that, which they probably should have. I kind of feel like the story's pacing was a little bit off. I feel like we got a ton of story at the end, and it was
yeah,
kind
it picks
of,
up a lot then.
yeah, and like leading up to that point, you're only getting like little tiny like teaspoonfuls up until that point.
Now, granted, yeah, the story is wonderful. It's a beautiful story. I love all of that. I'm in for it. The lore, all of it. But Dead Man is the also the only one we really interact with the most. And personally, if they introduced Hartman and the whole scientific team, we could have actually sprinkled in some a little bit more filler with Amelie and his mom and some information on that. Like, maybe some dreams or something where Deadman informs us a little bit more of what he's discovered about our mother. Because the big problem is we got a lot about Amelie and not a lot about our own mom, which was a little strange too. I mean, she was the president for so long. And you would kind of expect to hear more information on her before you would Amelie. Like, I understand that they tried to make it two different characters. I get it, but we only were
But it's
ever
the same
fed.
character, and then
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
character
And
anyway.
then we figure about Amelie, and it's like this I'm going to destroy all humanity, but our mother also stood for something a little bit different in her physical form rather than her beach form, which
Which,
is weird.
yeah, and it was,
I saw that coming from a mile away. Like I saw it ever since like they introduced her at the very beginning. Like I saw it coming. Like yeah, it's gonna be the same person, right? It's like yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah, and
somehow linked with her.
that's what was weird. Is like unless that's like literally a created Cortana daughter clone they are going there.
yeah, and it was kind of messed up that she's just like, the only person fit to replace me as president is myself. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
how
Who's not even
narcissistic.
there physically.
Yeah, like what the hell?
Yeah, and then on top of that, though, she wants to be president, but really she just wanted to end the world. Like, that was her end goal. She never really wanted to be America's president. She just wanted to kill everybody, which was even more like.
Which, I don't think she really wanted to kill anyone. It's just like she found out like that's because it's
She wanted to go ahead
that's what
and
she is, and she can't really control it.
Yeah, like that's like her purpose.
imagine literally. Because, I mean, she talks about the dreams. Like, imagine every single day being reminded that our extinction's coming. And at that point, why not just hit the extinct me now button, basically. And
Well, like
that's
she said, she wanted to give at least Sam like a chance, or everyone else, and she's just holding it as long as she could. So like Sam's really pessimistic, and for rightful reason. Um, I mean, the world doesn't have long last. Even uh, um, um, Troy Baker's with
Yeah, but pull
Yeah,
that
you know.
quote. What'd she
yeah.
say? We only have
Um,
260 something thousand years.
yeah,
Really? Because that's a long time. Okay? Sam could live a nice, lovely life at that. Not to actually tell Sam, I can understand connecting everybody by the Chiral Network, which actually ended up being really fudged up because you had to actually sacrifice babies to get the network online. Thanks.
That was pretty messed up.
So we already feel like a bad person, and just so that we could connect America. And now we're being told, now she just wants to make everyone go extinct because that was her job. It was like, I mean, it's a good story.
yeah. Everyone was like just abusing like all the whole Carl stuff, just and BB technology, the beaches. Everyone was just abusing it. I want to kind of go back to the whole Deadman's role. Like he's just kind of like the monster. Um, I really liked him. I mean,
Yeah.
think of all the characters right now. How many can you say besides Deadman did things selflessly?
Hartman. I liked Hartman a lot. I feel like his
I
character was forgotten in the scientific team involved.
but did he actually do anything selflessly? I thought he was pretty
He
with
was
a
he
selfish
went to
role.
the
I mean,
beach, but his research is what brought a lot of information about the beaches. I thought that actually helped, didn't it?
That's true.
Because he's been there the most.
I honestly would kind of argue for Die Hardman as well, because he was kind of doing this for somebody else the entire time, and he did try to save Cliff. He did everything he could to. So I kind of feel like him too, but somebody that was kind of, I guess, putting their neck out there constantly, I guess it would probably be
Now, Dead Man
Dead Man.
definitely though was there for Sam. See, that's the thing is he even against the government per se, America, he was there for Sam as a best friend too, which is very odd to me, seeing that he was a monster basically put together by dead pieces for the full purpose of basically serving them, I suppose, and doing as much as he can for research purposes. And that I also found weird. This person that's been created, basically like a human living experiment, isn't one of the closest kept, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
in the inner circle. It's just kind of like he's what, another person
Well, and
walking
he's our
around
shower
on this
buddy too.
walking around on the staff. Like you would think he would be at the HQ though, not where he was. I would think he'd be with the headquarters that got initially blown up because of just how weird and bizarre. Like he's definitely not human. He's just a living monster per se. And that's like an experiment you wouldn't want all of America to know about, kind of like the BBs in a way. So I don't know why he was in a different location.
Yeah, I feel like kind of going back to what John was saying is that they didn't really go into that. So the details of that are
Mm-hmm.
very cloudy because it's like, why
well,
did he get operated
yeah,
on?
all the characters are parallels of like old media, like old books, old stories, old tales, and Kojima likes to use that a lot. Even he's referenced Moby Dick a lot in Phantom Pain
Yeah.
in a very obvious way. It didn't go deep into detail because no one's gonna
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to it.
Yeah.
But all that hype leading up to Dead Man and him revealing what he really was, and just for it to be delivered the way it was somewhat disappointing. And I wish we did get more involved with the other people a little bit sooner, at least around that 40% marker of the game to 50%. Even 55%. Start introducing their stories a little bit better. And Hartman, who's going back and forth from the beach so frequently, I mean, you would think that we would be introduced to him and then helping the research team a whole lot sooner. I mean, if you didn't do that mission, I don't even want to know how the other mission would play out because you get delivered both those missions around the same time. And it's really strange because you have to go, we got this one first, let's do it, before proceeding with the main story. It's a very odd timing for um, Hartman to be introduced, in my opinion. Even the creator and explanation of him and, Sam, who's lost his family, all at once, to just bundled everything together and said, go help these research teams, get filled in, and then go to the main quest. It
Yeah.
was very rushed
And I
there.
feel like the conclusion, like that they were able to get, happened very fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we have all this information now. Like, I don't know. It just felt like they reached all of these conclusions and theories like super quick. Whereas before, it's kind of seemed like they didn't really know anything about what was going on. And you went from not really knowing a whole lot to knowing like almost everything.
It was almost like someone said, we don't know poop about this. And then they're like, oh, we found this rock. Oh, guess what we are? We are the fifth, sixth extinction entity, and they're
Yeah.
waiting, and guess who's that? And
Oh god.
it was a huge jump.
It's
It was
like,
a huge jump from a rock to camera to somehow we got onto a science team.
yeah.
Yeah, the really annoying part of all these little side characters is like everyone wanted to just try to play God. Like basically everyone, but everyone but Deadman was trying to play God.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but I
That's
don't.
why I liked him the best.
I feel like Deadman was more focused in on what was currently happening rather than what can we do with what we learn now. that makes sense.
Yeah, and Dead Man, I mean, you could see how he's connected to, like, like actually still making these relationships with people to people, but the other characters just don't seem as humanistic as they should have been, like human-like per se in their qualities. Like even Hartman, it was so rushed. I felt like we couldn't really connect with him. It was cute and it was dorky in delivery, and I really liked it, but we didn't really get to connect with him. Besides,
But
he just fed us
that's because he's
information.
dead most of the time.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, he's dead, but he goes to the beach and he was trying to find his family, which I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
And also very lonely feeling, because imagine going to the beach, being away from everybody, and you're basically dead, and you have to just stay over there and then come back. And you
Yeah.
would think that what happened with Hartman would be something similar to what happened with his mom. And that's where they would make like the connection. Like, you can have a separate person stranded, a ha and a ka. That, I think, should have happened to Hartman. I think it would have really helped with the understanding of Sam's mom, maybe. There's just, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
It
I think
was
she was like a really special case.
Yeah.
I do want to throw in there, it's very sad when Amelie lost her shovel in the ocean current,
What?
so she couldn't build sandcastles anymore.
Oh, what in the world? I don't think that was part of it.
It's like, what are you talking about?
But no, I mean, I think they kind of had to keep it with just Amelie and Bridget kind of being that way, because it kind of made her a special entity.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Hartman, it's like a weird, like, being dead for a few minutes and then resuscitating yourself and all that. And yeah, I kind of just feel like that kind of made him unique in a sense, where he can kind of get to his beach in kind of an obscure way, but he can't do, what Sam can do, where, he's going to come back if he dies, because, I mean, he's not going to come back. Like,
He's not repatriate.
he's like basically making himself be one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and something else is that if his mom was really the extinction entity, and the research that Hartman and his team, had pulled up, like, oh, this is like a perfectly preserved mammoth. Cool story. So why in the world did the mother end up getting this cancer if she's the extinction entity and dying from this cancer? Rather than, I mean, it should have had a different effect on her if she was the EE, her human form. Even after the surgery, like, she wouldn't have been, you would think that she would have a better health because she's the extinction entity. So that's what really got me. You're telling me that what the mammoth didn't have any kind of health concerns, and that's why he's perfectly preserved. It didn't make much sense to me, if that rings any bells. I was a little confused there. Like, why is a spirit practically the extinction entity? That's where I was confused.
Yeah, those little things I just stopped worrying about at some point, just because it's just a story at this point. It's like, why am I really gonna?
We don't give up on good lore.
Yeah.
I love this story.
I do like the lore. I mean, I go on wikis all the time when I don't feel like actually
But
watching a
that's what
series
I
or
was
reading something.
wondering. Well, it's just like some of the questions you have when you see the game, and you're like, but why? But why?
Yeah.
Because I feel like if they had started feeding us this information a little earlier without having to read every single note, per se, I think cutscenes could have done it all, that maybe we could have gotten more questions answered, per se. Which is why the 3 hours at the very end of the game is like, whoa.
Was unreal,
a little
yeah.
daunting, but super cool.
It's like, I kind of wish that they would have broken that up, like the cutscenes, and make it more even throughout the game. But I will be honest, there was something really cool about getting to like the game's end, and you're kind of feeling like this is like the finality of the game. Like you're making it to, you're making it back east, and this is the end. Like you can just kind of feel it. Like everything's going crazy. There's, bigger BTs popping up. You're running into, different bosses, and you're kind of approaching like a really heavy story section. There was something really exciting about that to me. And then just like the overall, I guess, delivery of it, I thought that the acting was really, really good by Mads Mikkelsen in the end. when you're on like different war beaches and all that, and you kind of are starting to get a clue as to what's going on. Like the times don't add up for that BB being his son. And then you go through all the stuff on the beach. We definitely have to talk about the last fight with Higgs, because that was just ridiculous. Like, I think I ended up killing him because you basically have that strand, like that singular rope, and you have to parry and you have to wrap him up. But I think you can actually just like dodge him and punch him if you want to too.
Oh, that's all I did.
Yeah, see, I was wrapping him up and like slamming his head on my knee and stuff.
Yeah, I
And
think I did that a few times, but I think that's just automatic.
yeah,
Like I think it just kind of
yeah, it just
does it
does it automatically.
if you're
Yeah.
fighting.
Now, I think that my finishing blow in that segment of that fight, I picked up a board. I think it was a broken board game. I picked it up and threw it at him, and it hit him, and he just fell down after that.
At some point I probably drew this a PlayStation, and I'm like, well,
Yeah, that's hilarious.
it's like this is a PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You should have gotten an achievement for that, to be honest with you. If you finished him off,
Yeah, with a
like
PlayStation,
with the PlayStation,
Oh,
that
God.
would be literally.
that would have
The only
been.
problem is that you can't like fight him again.
I know. Yeah, it's
And then after that, when you're punching him,
yeah,
in the
you're
water,
in the water, and your guys are just punching each other. It was just like the weirdest boss fight ever.
but it was great.
Like, it was
Oh
so
man,
strange.
yeah, you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 4.
Is it
That's the
similar?
features. Oh yeah, I'm like, this is literally when you're fighting Revolver Ocelot. It's kind of a spoiler, but I mean, it's really generic spoiler since you don't really know much about that.
Yeah.
But it's a part like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's been featured in like game videos a lot, but
Oh my god. It looked ridiculous. It's like then you have like the close-ups of like the fist going in his. It was just ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
I guess coming from a game that I thought originally was going, or very originally was going to be a contender to Silent Hill, to going into a weird story and be like, well, this is okay, at least it's weird, and then going to the boss battle where I'm like, oh, now we're like Street Fighter. Like, what is going on with the health bars and punching each other? It was a whirlwind, like a roller coaster of different. I didn't expect what was delivered, but it was
Yeah,
good.
honestly, I think that out of everything that happened in that game, I feel like that fight at the end with him and Higgs was probably the weirdest thing to me. Just like the whole tone of it, how you go through different stages. You're playing against, the giant BT, which Amelie's kind of in control of, I guess, not really. Then you have Higgs in that thing, and then you go to the beach and fight in that way. It's just, I don't know, it's just a really weird progression to that point. And it kind of threw me off. I'm like, this is how it's going to end. And then obviously you have, more to go after that. But yeah, it was really, really bizarre.
it's not even like the last boss fight either. I mean, there's like another thing that isn't really as grand as it, even as big as the thing was, like the last giant
Oh, yeah.
ET.
It's like, here's a whale. And
That's it. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
yeah, and it's like,
It was really easy
Like,
too.
I know, yeah.
Gave birth in the air to you, like as basically
Yeah, it
an
would shoot
attack.
those gold people at
It
you.
would basically birth human-looking BTs, and they would come flying your way. It's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, honestly, to me, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Like, to me, I think that the most difficult part of that game in terms of like, the combat was really the beach sequences. I felt like I died more in that segment than anywhere else. Most of the time when I died in the other segments because I was being stupid, or I was trying to just waste all my blood on like the ammunition. I will say though, I was using the like the what is it, the hermetic or humatic, what are they called?
Dramatic.
Yeah, hematic bullet rounds. I was using those when I was like fighting against Cliff and his soldiers.
Well, they do more damage against.
They do, but it was also taking all my health away. So once I switched
Yeah, now
over,
you're-
it was way
yeah.
better.
But you could pick up like a bunch of blood bags, so it didn't really matter much.
Yeah, that's true. But I thought
I had like
that was
24
kind of more
minutes.
difficult because you had to be a little bit more accurate with with your weapon. And it was a much smaller target, where with the whale, you could just stand on top of like a floating building and just keep loading it up with, the quadruple rocket launcher or really whatever you had. So I felt like that was a lot easier than like the sequence that you went with Cliff.
You know what's interesting is sorry. Hey, I'm going to interrupt this and bring up something completely this irrelevant and somewhat
Okay.
off track. I don't think I've ever seen Amelie mad or his mother mad looking. And honestly, I think that's why I was so confused about the whole her and how she reached her conclusion and decisions and her thinking. You can't really tell like what the heck the mood is because her face doesn't move. It's like she got Botox.
I
She's just
hated
like,
her.
I'm somewhat sad and I'm gonna tell you something important, but I'm somewhat sad, and you couldn't tell. Like there should have been more distress, like her churning over what she should do and then finally just giving Sam that choice. Like, you know what? I don't even deserve this decision. It really should be yours. But the way she delivers it is, I have Botox in my face. You can't tell what I'm saying, and I'm going to turn around, give you a gun, and you're going to decide. It's like, wait, what? I couldn't tell or read the situation because her face just didn't move enough.
Well, of
It was
course she
weird.
looks that way. She's the biotic woman.
Yeah. Like that was weird. John, did you have a hard time deciding what to do in that situation? Because I was
What?
shooting her and I was running up to her, trying to shoot her in the face, shoot her in the necklace.
Oh, I figured it out.
Did you figure it out right away?
Oh no, I mean I expended all the rounds, but I only had 6 rounds, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I go up to her, and then yeah, sure enough, it triggered the
Oh
little
wow.
button action.
Yeah, see, I failed that a couple times. I didn't realize you could put the gun away.
I looked it up as he fell, so I saw there's a different looking cutscene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like, she'll turn around and there'll be like blood coming out of her eyes and like the sun or
Yeah, I
whatever in
didn't
the
get that because
background
I figured
explodes.
it out.
I'm upset there's no space. There was no space, and I'm highly upset. That was not space, in my opinion. It was not space. And I'm really upset
Now the only
that the
thing,
five
yeah, go ahead.
astronaut guys didn't make like a super cool freaking experience or whatever, presence or something. Whatever the word is.
What, the five? Because those guys
The
in the
floaty
top were the
guys.
five extinction entities, I'm assuming,
I
right?
wanted to see them.
Yeah,
They were human looking species. It didn't make sense that they represented
well,
animals. That got
it's
me
just
upset too.
a personification. Literally, it's a literal personification. They're literally people.
Yeah, I am kind of disappointed because Cliff said that we could go anywhere we want, even the moon. And honestly, because, mankind and Earth is going to die anyway, how crazy would that be if they made a sequel where you actually just start civilization on the moon?
We better. Oh, that makes sense. We did hear about heart. Sorry. Okay, so I was under the impression someone was going to the moon in the beginning because if you remember, there's a guy in your private room who's like talking to you, and I guess that was Hartman. And then you can hear in the background 5, 4, 3, and I was like, oh my god, like yeah, we can go to the moon. Like that was my whole
Oh yeah,
idea.
that's.
But that was Hartman because he was about to die.
Yeah, he was just,
That was
yeah.
great.
Oh,
That's
God.
great. I just made that
I remember
connection.
they played that in the trailer and I got excited, but then it's like, and then you reach Hartman, it's like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the heck? I just realized that.
Oh, my God. So yeah, so that whole ending sequence with Amelie, she kind of like spills the beans. Um, but prior to that, of course, you're going through, the beach and she ends up pushing you back after Die Hardman shows up there with a gun. And then you see Cliff come out of the water, who he has an issue with Bridget. And that was kind of when I think that I fully pieced it together because it's like Amelie disappeared. Now you have Bridget here. And really, even that whole sequence was kind of confusing too. Because I went through that entire game thinking that Cliff was, also able to come back alive again. But I guess he was just somebody that was lingering around because he was unhappy.
You know what?
He
You
was
have a good
angry.
point. Yeah, you have a
It's
good
like he was
point.
so mad he came back from hell.
But you know what's super confusing though is the fact that he also has the cross on his stomach, which looks like he was in a repatriate as well.
Yeah.
That's what's very confusing about the whole situation because the cross on the stomach, kind of like where she covered up the gun wound on Sam as a baby,
Yeah.
But he had one too in one of the scenes, and it's almost as if they had brought him back, but now he's causing all the trouble. So where is he
So Zan played
now?
that she brought him back, or
Well, yeah, her ha or ka, whatever, on the other side on the beach, sent him back, and that's kind of what had caused, I guess, the BT's interaction more with the world or something. It made it worse or something because she brought back something living that shouldn't have been possible. Because she wasn't even supposed to have a separate spirit over there on the in the beach, and then now she has this ability to bring back living people
Yeah, that seemed like that had some kind of consequence for her doing that.
for bringing back life.
Yeah, and I feel like they didn't really make that super clear either.
They didn't, and the fact that we also saw the mother and her little duplicate self on the same beach was never explained. Because if the physical form of her died, then she should have been able to see that physical form and like synced or something with that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They should have been synced and been the same person, like, maybe different colored dress, an indicator of some sort, but instead they represented it as two separate people on one beach, and I didn't agree with that per se, because that made things even more confusing when we saw them interacting with Higgs and Die Hardman on there, and
Yeah.
then suddenly Amelie's like, get out of here. Like, what, is that the piece of our mom that actually cared for us? Is that what they're trying to tell
Well, that's another thing I
us?
was kind of confused about, because why did she kick us out of there if she wanted us there with her? Like, I was kind of confused about that part.
That part really is confusing because it's like she didn't want to give us back to our father, even though she knew what she did was a mistake and she wanted us on the beach anyway. And now you're pushing us away.
Yeah, and she was kind of like mean to Fragile while she was there too. It's
Oh,
like, we
yeah.
got it from here. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. That whole sequence was really strange. So it's like you're keeping them there only to push him out of there anyway. And then it's like they were making it seem like, oh yeah, Cliff is holding her hostage on the beach along with Die Hardman. But then when you get to the beach, none of them are there. It's just her. So like, it didn't. I don't know. It's like, what happened to Cliff after we left? He just went back to his army beach. Like, I was kind of confused about that.
Well, I think, and John, you could definitely jump in and here and clarify too, from as far as from what I can tell with the whole Higgs situation in Fragile and Amelie, is that the whole, I think Fragile was into Higgs, and then Amelie stepped in, was like, I'm
uh,
powerful,
yeah,
and that's
that
why there's
whole
some
beach sequence was
jealousy.
weird.
I guess there was like a jealous B word phase between them two, and the whole Higgs situation with them made them a little salty toward each other of some sort. Like, they knew each other. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Fragile was there for Sam and was always good to him and was like a good, pure, innocent person.
Yeah, and she fed him cryptobiotes too.
Whereas, whereas Amelie is kind of like did wrong to Sam, and now she wants to be like in control with Sam in his life. And
She's
then
like, I
Fragile's like,
literally killed your father, Sam.
it's just weird. Like, they just didn't like each
Yeah.
other, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fragile wasn't as open in the beginning of the game, so she kept all his secrets, and that kind of put Sam in bad situations because he didn't know anything about anything that's going on, and then he finds out later because she does some whole exposition after. It's like, well, you could have told me that before I went through this.
Well, even she actually disappears halfway through the game.
Which was weird too.
Yeah, like after you throw the bomb into the tar pit, Fragile just is gone.
She's
I
like,
mean,
GG.
you don't really
thanks.
talk to her again. She's just like, I'm going to kill Higgs, and, you know, if he has any family, I'm going to take care of them. It's like, it's weird. She just like disappears. She's gone. You don't hear from her again, and you're just kind of on to, the next person. So I thought that was really strange because she seemed like she was going to be like an extremely major character, but I feel like you went chapters without even hearing about her. So, yeah, that was a little bizarre to me.
Yeah, and the fact that she disappeared felt like, and then we were introduced to the other characters more so. I felt like they took her out on purpose just so they can plop in the others, which honestly they could have just done both. Like, told us that Fragile was off doing some sort of research or some sort of indicator, which we read all the notes. There was
Yeah.
no indicator what she was up to or what she's doing, or even just trying to live a normal life. Maybe find and make some friends or go through the town and make sure everyone's doing okay. Or there was no indicator at all.
Yeah, and she ended up being important at the end, but prior to that, she was kind of a gameplay mechanic.
It was odd.
So it was a little bit
And she's
weird.
gonna show up to your room anytime she wants to, apparently. So
Yeah, she's
kind of
like, I'm just
freaks
taking a
me out.
shower in your room. I know you don't like, interaction with humans, so I'm just gonna be here naked in your shower.
Yeah, that scene was weird
Stop
too.
using your shower.
I know, yeah, it was just really that was very strange.
It's a great way to get out doing laundry.
Yeah, it's like
I have my own room, but I want to use yours.
yeah, like
Okay.
why? Like it's just like the weirdest thing.
Can that cutscene happen in one of those bunkers people put around?
I don't know.
Or was it? No, wait, no. It was in a specific. Wasn't it was in a specific way station though, right?
I think it was. Yeah, it might have been.
We were supposed to meet her at the way station, but then we went in there and it was empty until basically we woke up or something weird like that, I think. Or we
Yeah.
walked in and she was in the shower.
I think it'd have been interesting if instead of showering, she was pooping. She's like, "Sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to stink up the place."
Oh my god.
But no, it's just weird. It's like you go from her taking a shower in your room to never hearing from her
Taking a
again. Yeah, taking a shower. Um, yeah, it's just kind of weird. And then of course, you kind of learn more about Higgs, and Fragile doesn't end up killing Higgs, and Higgs gives her information about Amelie. And that gives me a whole bunch of different questions, like, was Higgs ever in control, or was Amelie in control the entire time? I feel like, because Amelie is the way she is, you would think that there's not a whole lot that's going to really be able to, change her or manipulate her in any way. Like she should be kind of like a higher being, right? She's the extinction entity.
Well, that's also the thing, is that she had her own beach. She was technically she gave Higgs her power. She had control over that power source. She was like a little battery basically connected to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what isn't explained is the fact that at the end, she explains, I can cut you off from my beach. Us being Sam, and there wouldn't be an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What she doesn't really explain
Think,
is, I'm going to cut my beach off from humanity, and that's why the Earth will be safe for now from BTs. That wasn't really explained to the T there, and I was really confused.
Yeah, it was just like, she wants to just be her and Chris Christie just together.
And now I guess Higgs is all of a sudden good? That guy's brain is like...
Well, that's the thing, and yeah, Higgs kind of confused me too. Does he want the world to end because he's tired of coming back again and again? Like, is he, because, coming back is like, same thing Sam is. Like, it seemed like he was like tired of that. Like, he just wanted to kind of die. Like, does that sound right to you guys?
I honestly don't know. I have to know more about him, and that's part of the problem. Is Higgs' story is why he changed from being the person he used to be to seeing the power Amelie had, and rather the truth or not, what did Higgs get out of it?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Did he get tired of his lifestyle, like what you're saying, where he was a repatriate and now he had to keep coming back, and he would rather just get it done and over with, have an end to it? Or is he actually, like a good person who doesn't want to live anymore? Well, I guess that's really wrong in the same sentence, but he just didn't want to live anymore, and that's why he chose to be bad.
Yeah, and he was saying, he's like a particle of God or whatever, too.
Or is he really a terrorist? Because the things he was saying were pretty crazy. Like, he's like this decider of all fates. I mean, at that point, you're kind of psychologically crazy, and so there's not really a saving you, period. Where it's like, oh yeah, and you just put yourself in some rehab and you'll be good with Fragile. I just don't know.
He had a medical disorder. Like, what was the deal with that? Like, what was he trying to gain?
I don't know.
I mean, unless he's just trying to play God as well, but then if you kill everybody, then what are you the God of?
And something else that kind of...
It's all crazy.
Like, it's all...
Yeah. I don't know. It's just it seemed like he just didn't really have an end game. It's like the end game was just the world ends, and then I'm just going to be chilling on a beach somewhere.
And all this hype over the gold mask, and it literally lost all of its interestingness to me after Fragile just keeps it cool. That's cool and all, but at the same time, I thought that mask would mean so much more. Instead, it's, hey, these broken baby dolls? They're how you get to Amelie's beach. What? Wouldn't the gold mask make more sense because it's gold like her necklace? I'm so confused. Like, that really was like, are you kidding me? So, just these broken baby dolls, these BB dolls are a way for them to interact with her beach, but not the
But then
gold
that's
mask?
but those baby dolls also are what made Cliff able to come and see her as well. So I think she was trying to get them two together. I mean, that's kind of what she alluded to, right? So it's just, how did she get those baby dolls to burning in hell Cliff? I just don't
They
understand what
don't
happened.
they don't explain if those were the baby dolls that were like the babies that were sacrificed for the knots in the network. They don't really explain if that's the same BBs those are based off of, the knots that were made and the network connections. Because you had to sacrifice a BB to connect the network basically with that last
Yeah.
knot. And I'm guessing that's probably what she used. But at the same time, if a BB dies, they don't go over there as a baby doll. So explain that for me because what?
Well,
Because they obviously go over as like
and I'm
babies,
confused
I
about
guess.
that too, because when we connected that final location and Sam could see that that was a BB pod he was putting onto the conveyor belt, why wouldn't he question that? Like, I know he doesn't really talk that much, but why would he just go ahead and do that?
Seemed out of the ordinary after the whole long game of him connecting with his BB. Like
Yeah, we're just going to send this in there.
send
Now,
this one in.
but was there a BB in there? Or was it like, I'm kind of
Was it a doll
confused.
to
Yeah.
connect Amelie to it? That's another question.
Because as soon as that happens, then, Higgs shows up with Amelie. So I don't know.
That's more holes that I would want filled. Well, that
Yeah.
sounds wrong, but
I like the whole rule where you can just take basically anything to the beach as long as you imagine it as equipment.
I like that too. Yeah.
that was so
It's like,
cute.
all right, let me just bring this and this. Let me bring some of these friends over. Oh, their equipment. They're just
Well, didn't she say that she made Lou imagine that he was a piece of equipment?
No, Lou,
yeah.
he
That's
snuck
how she brought him.
along. She snuck along
Yeah.
because she didn't mean to bring him, but he had imagined himself as a piece of her equipment, and then like basically snuck a ride with him.
That's pretty
Like so
funny.
he got warped there too because he imagined himself as her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he appeared there, she was like, well, she explained that to him or whatever. And his little fighting pose. Oh my god, that was so cute.
That was, yeah. Like, I thought that it was really cool seeing like how Sam got like more. He like warmed up a lot throughout the game, like both his connections to like the people that he was interacting with, and then of course like the BB. Like, I think he kind of had a soft spot for it in the beginning of the game when they told him to like incinerate it, and then he's just like, I don't really want to do that, and he ends up using it. But I think it's really cool that at some point in the game, it's just like the baby's just randomly named Lou, and that's how it's like, it doesn't say like, check on BB, it says check on Lou. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. How they kind of just like put that in there. And it's like, all right, I guess the baby's name is Lou now. And then finding out the reasoning behind like him naming it Lou because, he lost his son and his
Which wasn't
wife.
anything really too special. It's just like you're just making a. It's like, oh, it's my it's like Laszlo, this is my replacement daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're my replacement kid. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you the name since I couldn't name my other one.
Yeah, pretty much. But I thought that was kind of cool. I like seeing the development as Sam as a character, as he got more open, yet still maintaining his
Distance.
his distance. Like, and coming to mind is when they're all back east again, and then Lochner goes to, I guess, give him a hug, and he just is like, ugh. He's like pushes her away. So it's like, okay, so he's still Sam, but he's definitely a lot warmer of a person now. And then of course, the whole shower scene with Dead Man was hilarious. So I
So
feel
when
like
did Mama die?
she died right after we threw that.
No, why?
Oh well, because she technically wasn't, I guess, alive. She died in that. I guess she died
The
in
crash,
the
like the building that fell.
yeah, when the building fell, she died along with the baby. But I guess because like their connection was still intact, she was kind of like still living in this world.
Like Twilight Zone kind of thing. Like they were living on the in between her baby and her.
Yeah,
So
like
like the baby was for some reason still able to interact, even though he was dead, with this world.
yeah,
She was able to interact with this world and that one since she's connected to the baby. So she has insight on BTs, but the baby also knows that mommy's still there in the real world.
yeah. But
It was a weird.
the BT couldn't go back or couldn't go to like I guess the beach, and that prevented, you know,
Couldn't pass
yeah,
on, per
Mama
se.
from dying.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why they couldn't, I guess, really go anywhere, I guess.
And then when they severed the tie, both were able to fade, basically. So she was
Yeah.
able to finally do the full transition, per se. Well, she actually ended up transitioning into her twin, which is weird.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, that's some next level stuff there. But then the BB
It's the
was.
same character, same actor. It's just
Yeah,
like,
no,
oh, here
yeah.
she is again.
But
Yeah.
then they take on a singular person, though, and they actually end up calling her Mama at the end. So
And she knows like the same exact things. Like she tells you all the equipment stuff. It's literally the same lines. I was like, okay, it's just
yeah,
different hairstyle.
it's really strange. So they kind of just became one person, and they kind of alluded to that they were always the same person. So even that was really confusing
Which
and
is
weird.
really scary, because imagine, like, if you're a twin during that time and you're like, oh my god, when I die, I'm going to be half of you.
I'm gonna be you.
Like, because I guess they're kind of meaning, like, when you're in the womb together, rather you're twins or triplets, you still have a shared, it's almost like a shared consciousness, I suppose,
Yeah.
where you both know how each other feels, and you both know just how upset you are, and you have the same thoughts, or there's similarities between you and your twins. So I think it was trying to hint at the fact that you are almost like the same spirit, the same consciousness. So when I guess she passed, she basically merged with her other consciousness before she can proceed to the beach. Her other twin would have to
Yeah.
pass too, which is weird.
I'm kind of confused though. Why didn't she just die when she cut the umbilical cord?
That's weird, isn't it?
You just die.
They're like, I mean, like, yeah, like, why though? I mean, why did she live that long? Why did she live the entire? Well, if you're
Because they
me-
wanted her to talk you through the whole mountain
yeah.
you climb. Assuming you went that way.
I mean, but I know, but I took her to like the hot springs, and we jumped off a couple cliffs, and she actually did die a couple times. It's like you killed Mama. It's over. It's like and then she ends up dying anyway.
And you get to the cutscenes like, wait, so what did I do wrong?
Yeah, it's like so she's still dead, but
I didn't do anything wrong.
yeah, I quit being mad at me. But it was just really strange, and it's like you would think that she wouldn't have made it that long.
Now, what's really uncomforting, you guys, is the fact that we deliver her basically naked body, because she had to be naked apparently, and we had to zip her up naked, which is even more interesting, over to Hartman for him to basically be like, oh, I mean, with that umbilical cord and the fact that she's not aging, so she's the extinction entity. So wait a minute. What? Because she didn't fade either. It was that umbilical cord thingamajob, which I'm still confused
Well, it's because
about.
her umbilical cord was still preserved. But then if her umbilical cord is still preserved, why did she die? Like, that's what I'm kind of confused about.
Like, how does the umbilical cord affect their spirit, basically? Like, not explained.
Because it keeps them, I guess, in the world of the living. But even, like, when they're talking about the mammoths and stuff, they're saying, well, they're still preserved because their umbilical cords were still there. But it's like, I'm kind of confused. Like, what does that mean?
How did we never notice they had an umbilical cord? Now you're just confusing me.
Yeah, and why didn't the doctor ever cut it off?
Yeah, like, I would think I would know if an umbilical cord was on me. Like, I'm just so confused.
Yeah, it's
like,
really
to
bizarre.
me, that was a little like a gray area.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think I'm done with. I'm just about done with the whole weird lore kind of stuff.
it was weird when Hartman took the umbilical cord and he like fried it up and ate it. Like, what was with that? He's like, I'm gonna post this on
delving
Reddit.
into weird territory here.
Like, but here's another question: if Lockney dies, then would that also mean that there's two void outs, one from the original body of her and Lockney? So wouldn't you have to incinerate both bodies, being twins? Well, that's not a concern anymore. I guess,
Well,
technically speaking, since the BTs are gone and that stuff's
yeah,
gone
that
at
was
the
kind of
end.
another thing that confused me too. Is the world like free of BTs now, or is it still full of BTs?
There's a rainbow, and it was magical, and it wasn't upside down. So I'm gonna guess there's no
And
more
there's no
BT.
time fall because in the end it shows Sam
Oh, are you
and
talking about Mama still in her body? Because that one was just an exception. Just
oh,
because.
well, we're kind of jumping ahead now, I guess, to the end of
Yeah,
the
well,
game,
that's
but
Like, at the very end, we see the beautiful scene of Sam holding little Louise, and they're out there,
and it's
and there's a
raining.
little rainbow and a sun, and for some reason it's also raining, but they're not aging because I guess there's no more BTs.
Yeah,
well, not all rain was Timefall rain, was it, or was all rain Timefall?
I'm not really
I saw that
sure.
rainbow many
I feel
different
like
times.
I feel like all the rain like hurt you because he'd always put his hood on and stuff when the rain would
But in the
occur.
BT areas, it was like more extreme. It was faster.
Yeah, it was faster. Like you'd still get effects from the rain, but when it was the black rain, that was when it was like, okay, now it's really doing
They
some
said
work.
that the rain. They said that
Oh no, it's raining harder.
Timefall.
Yeah, now this is hurting
They
way
said
more.
Timefall's initial impact, like the raindrop on the initial impact, ages. But if it was to touch something else and then fall into something else, it's just water. So basically, if it was to basically touch like a leaf and then fall onto you, it wouldn't have any effect. It would just be the same water. So, but I mean, if you're standing in the rain, like we saw in the last scene, and you're getting pelted by it, still, I mean, that was still rain. And he wasn't aging at all. Not even like a little graying hairs or anything. And the baby's right there. Like, why would you expose the baby to it unless it wasn't harmful anymore?
Yeah.
See, and they were near the incinerator, which, and there was no floatingness, so I'm gonna guess that it cleared up. I think what happened was that his mom, Amelie, okay, Bridget, whatever, ended up cutting her beach completely off with all the other beaches because she's the main source. So when she cut off Sam, she also cut off everybody else. So I think that she had separated their beaches. Therefore, we no longer have any of those strange connections to the other side until basically we're extinct. When we're extinct, and
Mm,
that'll be the time when the extinction is supposed to occur.
I
That
see.
we will basically the issues will resurface. We'll basically just all.
But the thing is, though, if somebody dies though after this, don't they? Don't they go to their own beach, and wouldn't that interact with the world?
I think that Amelie disconnected all that because she was the power source for the
So she's
beaches.
like, I'm taking this Ethernet cable, I'm pulling it out, we're done.
I guess so. I think so. I think that's how it goes. I could be wrong. I could be
That's it. I
wrong, and you
quit.
have your own personal beach. You could have your own now. Um,
She's like, GG, too easy.
well, that also prevents her from deciding like who gets to live and die at this point because she was the one who made us go back to living.
Mm,
She was the reason why we came back to life originally, and but that's weird.
it
Wouldn't
is
if she
weird.
had to do that again with Higgs if he's a repatriate?
Yeah,
She
but
chose
they
that again.
but they basically cut him off though. So I guess his special item, that mask, which is why she kept it, I think that mask was what connected him and was able
No,
to.
it was the BB doll. Remember the stupid doll?
Yeah,
She
but
said that was used to
I
connect
thought
everyone.
Higgs' connection with the real world, like his item, like how Amelie had her necklace, Sam had his dream catcher. I thought his was his mask.
I didn't know the Dreamcatcher connected to the real world. I thought that
No,
connected her
no, it connected
into
you to the beach. But I feel like Higgs can't go back now though. I feel like his ability to come back to the normal world has been severed. So he's stuck on his beach.
But don't you remember when Deadman was holding up the baby doll and he said this was in his BB pod? It wasn't even a real baby. It was a doll inside of Higgs' red pod. Remember when they presented it?
Oh, I
It was
see what you
it was
mean.
huge. I don't know how that even fit in
Yeah,
the
well,
pod, but
so they took it away from him, and then but they also did take away his mask too. So I imagine that
which
had
is
some
what.
kind of connection.
But Fragile kept the mask,
Yeah, she kept it, but he doesn't have access to it, so he can't hold it.
which to me I think it was a Pharaoh's mask is what they kept calling it. I'm sure there's some sort of obviously
I don't know.
connected reason as to why that is a symbol, but I don't think it had anything to do with the connection to the beaches,
Yeah.
which is kind of upsetting because that mask was super cool and I was hoping for more.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple weird things that I kind of want to get to here. Number one, the pizza guy, Peter Englert, is that what his name is? Englert.
I never completed like
Ingelo.
all the deliveries.
I just did one. I did one pizza delivery. I'm just like, I'm not going to keep doing this. And it turns out, it turns out that he was actually Higgs, because you get an email from him, and he basically is talking about the pizza and then talking about how he threw his bomb into the, tar pit, and then he signs it, Higgs.
Like Love Higgs.
Yeah,
Or something.
and then
Yeah,
it's
I had
like,
to do a double take there. I'm like, wait, what? What?
yeah, it's like, what is this? So then you go to his bunker, and it has a whole bunch of, strands.
He's your number one stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a fan community, but
It was like,
a creepy
what?
one. Like a stalker service.
And it's actually pretty excellent considering like Sam is doing like all of these like really serious deliveries. Like you need to deliver medicine to this old guy or he is literally going to die. And then you have Higgs ordering pizza.
And he has pizza boxes.
And he has pizza
inside.
boxes everywhere. And then he also has a King Tut mask, which is pretty cool too.
He just wanted to test you. He's like, what will you do, Sam? Pizza or pills?
Yeah.
Make your choice.
It was just so weird. Like it was really weird. Like that was a really interesting tie-in. And I don't think that you can connect him to the chiral network. But then again though, it would be pretty interesting though if you could connect him, and then that would kind of explain how he would have access to, I guess, him being in that distribution center when you did put that.
Do you think that's how he tampered with? Do you remember when Mama had to fix her Cupid because it's been tampered with? Do you think that initial delivery is the reason why? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't know though,
they
because
said it was tampered with. They're like,
but you
"This
don't
isn't."
connect his bunker to the chiral network though. It's outside of it.
That would have been a good twist.
But maybe you were supposed to before then. But I feel like they would have made that a main story mission if it was super important. Like that's why it's so weird. Like this was just like a random like group of side missions. It wasn't like something you had to complete. So I mean, if you were just doing story missions, you never really would have messed around with the pizza deliveries anyway. So it's just really weird and obscure that they made him Higgs.
I'm really upset they didn't put like, when you play Mass Effect and there's like a general voice that reads all of the codex information.
Oh god, that would have been great.
If they could have just had some sort of robotic thing read to you.
That was a lot of reading.
Like, I don't know, call him, I don't know, like data reader. I don't know, like initiate data reader, and it'd just be like a generic robot voice that would read out your emails for you. Hello, there was a lot of notes to read, and that was way more than Mass Effect. And I know people who didn't even give Mass Effect's codex like a look. They're like, oh nope, not for me. And a reader would be great.
They should have had the delivery bot read it to you.
Yeah, like maybe the delivery bot guy or something. I don't know. Or like their voices. Their voices should have been like part of it if they were willing to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like that was a crap ton of things to read. Like you'd have like all the emails to go through. I loved reading
I read it all.
I did too.
I kind of regret it. I'm like, that was a lot of wasted time.
It kind of was, but it also helped kind of shape the story. But it's like I hated when you were trying to just keep going like in like the story, and then you open up a data tab and it's like 5 paragraphs long. It's like, oh my god.
And you have to.
And I think you gotta read through like the emails, or at least open them. Not really read them. You just have to open them to like go through or get new orders and stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like, I get why they did it, because as you're progressing, you see Sam making these connections and becoming more connected to the world, which I understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, give us the gamers a chance to be able to sip our drinks and relax a little and just listen to them, you know, like some kind of coded in message.
You're saying this game didn't let you relax? Come on,
Not after the
you want to run
99
home
plus
math?
messages. I don't think that my main interest was reading. Otherwise, I would have just read a book on it.
I
You know?
felt like the font was a little bit small too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
They
felt that
fixed
way.
that. I found. Yeah, they fixed that.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It
We
was
haven't had.
I just wish
But I have
that
like a. I sit next to like a bigger screen, so it wasn't bad. But I know I can tell it would be a struggle for like other people.
yeah, if you're like sitting at like your couch and you're just like up on your like, 32-inch TV, it's like what does it say?
Bad vision too if you do.
Oh yeah.
And most of those could have been categorized as like they should have separated them out from being like from the not cities or research topics, because honestly, a lot of them were like, "Did you know evolution is?" And it's like the definition of
Yeah.
evolution.
Well, actually, on the emails, they have the separate tab for like the important ones.
It was like, this is ridiculous. I don't know. Like, to me, even though you're reading it, because I feel like everything is like going to be significant for some reason, I'm like, is this like a lesson in science? Because if we're just going to question all of existence, that's not very helpful for me in the game. Okay,
I
like,
think that they should have had like, it's just called story time, and you pressed it, and then Dead Man would come into the room, he'd sit on your bed, he'd tap his knee, Sam would go over, sit down, and you would select any of those data entries and hit it, and then Dead Man would read it to you.
very interesting.
And then afterwards, he would tuck you in, and it would start the next day.
Kiss you goodnight.
Here's a question. Who's your favorite voice?
My favorite voice, honestly, I feel like it was Clifford.
Oh, Cliff, I just love that.
Yeah,
I
Matt's
love
got a
that
pretty nice voice.
BB.
I mean, I feel like
Wow.
he did a really good job. Like,
He had a relaxing voice.
I think it fit that game super well. What about you,
No,
John?
I thought Die Hard had a pretty good voice.
It was pretty good.
Oh my God, no shoot.
As annoying as you hear all the time, I thought it was actually good.
Later on, his voice was like, to me, just hearing the fluctuations of his emotions, that's when I appreciated it more.
Yeah, like when he was apologizing to Sam, because I imagine that he was starting to realize that Sam was going to find out that Clifford was his dad.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, apologizing in a way. I think that he did a really, like that whole sequence where he's like crying on the ground and like
He did
pounding the
good.
ground. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, he did
God,
really good.
we need
then.
more of that because it was like mostly monotonous throughout
Mhm.
the whole
It
game.
was, yeah. But I think that last sequence with, because Amelie had no expression at all. I wasn't really a huge fan of that character. But
And
then,
the only time she was actually what's her name the actor Bionic Women Lindsay Wagner was
yeah.
I think only when she was the in bed dying president. I think that's the only time they used her. Other than that, it was played by a different voice actor, so it's not really her.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit better. in that.
Yeah, and it just there was no once again no emotions that came from it. It was like talking to Siri. It was like, I mean, even Siri I think puts on a better emotional response than she did per se.
Yeah.
It was almost like a really bad, like your second grade teacher's reading you the story, and she's like, "But I'm the extinction entity." It's like a theater performance per se.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that, once we get into like that sequence where, Sam's kind of leaving and he goes into, back to like the incinerator. He's getting ready to, put the baby on the incineration table or whatever that's considered, like the little, pop-up thing. And he plugs in and you go into that cutscene and you get to see everything outside of the pod. I thought that whole sequence was actually really powerful. Like even just playing like the BB music on your way to like incinerate, like I was like really like upset. I'm like, this is terrible.
I was gonna cry. I was so close to crying. I was like, "Don't do it. This is gonna have a happy ending, I bet." And then it just didn't seem like it, and I was just getting more upset.
Yeah, like I was like really like not having it. Like I thought it was a really powerful moment. And then once you like are starting to realize, okay, so like Cliff is Sam's dad. Like I thought that whole performance with Cliff having to kind of off his wife, who I'm assuming was kind of already dead.
Which I mean, she was just like in the Twilight
She was
Zone.
in a coma, I guess, right?
She wasn't gonna wake up. She's not coming back to the living, like, to be normal again. Like, she's just gonna live in the in between unless you end her and say
Yeah.
goodbye. then she can at least pass on. So that was going to be his last goodbye to her. He was never going to see her again. He'd have to leave there and never come back with BB. So to say his final goodbye, of course, he decided that she should die by his hands, not the government's or,
Yeah.
Miss Strand or anything.
And it was
So,
it was really messed up because, Die Hardman's trying his best to get, Cliff out of there and trying to, get him to safety, and he did everything he could. But then, they take the pod back from him, and then, the baby's not in the pod, and then you see Clifford holding the baby, and they basically just, open fire. Like, Bridget essentially grabs the gun while it's in Die Hardman's hand and ends up killing both of them. But I thought that when they were kind of laying on the ground and, you see Clifford talking to the baby, which might have happened before that. Can't really remember, but he's like saying, he was scared to be a father and all that. Like, that was like, oh man, like this
very
is
powerful. That was so strong.
yeah.
Like, that was so
Well, the
nice.
last 2 hours is the entire movie, and I did
Yeah.
warn you, and I guess you didn't listen.
No, we stayed up super late.
Oh, yeah, it was like, what was it, 2 or 3 in the morning?
Yeah, because it didn't really feel that long. There were certain areas that did feel long, and mainly the beach sequence where you're just on the beach kind of waiting for something to happen. I was kind of confused at that point. I'm like, I thought that was the end of the game because I'm like, are we just stuck on the beach now? Like, was that like the trade-off we made?
I had a really good idea, John. I was like, hey, we should run down the beach, kind of like what she said earlier. I bet that's what we're supposed to do. And then we just got warped back. I was like, well, I'm out of
Yeah,
ideas.
you just literally don't have to do anything. You can.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and she
Yeah,
kind
you
of
just have
talks
to
to you
wait.
about it.
I had
Yeah.
all these great ideas. I was like, maybe we're supposed to like reconnect by walking back into the land, or maybe we go into the ocean. And no, you just walk around and wait for the visions to kind of boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, and then when the low roar song, I'll Keep Coming was playing, like I was tapping like the pick up buttons, so it looked like I was playing the drums, and I was like dancing all around
Oh
and
my
whatnot.
god, yes. He was tapping the button, so it looked like he was drumming to it.
Yeah, so it's like blah, blah. It was great. But yeah, it was a really powerful ending though for me, especially when they get back and then Sam's like trying to resuscitate the baby, and this obviously comes after the whole, Cliff revealing like, Sam was his son, and they get, a hug, and he ends up getting shot. It was sad, but also kind of happy because it's like they got that moment. It seemed like Clifford was at peace, and then, obviously Sam going back and trying to resuscitate Lou after snatching Lou off of the incinerator plate. So it was really a really good ending to me, at least.
It made you like justify bringing, like in the beginning, and you're like, oh my god, her mom has cancer and Sam doesn't even care. And then you later learn on, it's like, well, she kind of deserved it.
Yeah, she
You
was
don't mean to be
kind of a
mean.
jerk.
You don't want to be mean, but the fact that she sacrificed lives for her scientific experiments in a way, and
That's why I hated her. You're just like, oh.
it's kind of like there was no
Yeah.
ethics involved. And the fact that, here's the thing, when she had fired those 2 shots and she had killed the baby too, to me, that was just like an emotional response, because in a scientific standpoint, that guy was going to die. Sam's dad was going to die regardless. He was bleeding out. But the baby who was outside of the pod could have been further research. Instead, she fired the shots, and to me, that didn't make a lot of sense because she obviously was a researcher. She was very logical, and the baby's not going to run away. What is it going to do? Crawl away from you? To me, that was like she made a mistake. I honestly don't think she ever should have said she regretted shooting the father. But in the end, she says that just because what? You feel bad all of a sudden?
Yeah.
You as a researcher, as a scientist, you just suddenly feel bad for the father. Like the kid, I can understand even keeping alive just to be a little research subject. And she could have just, there you go. We wouldn't even have a story. But instead, she shot him for some unknown reason. And just freaked out. Like, why shoot him? Why was that like a thing? Why shoot the baby?
Yeah, and you know what? This is a side note. You're talking about shooting babies. Screw Higgs for shooting at Lou. Like, that was
Yeah.
such a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Like, that was ridiculous. I thought that Lou was going to die there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's like, who would shoot at the baby?
And why keep him alive? That's another thing. Fragile, but I'm not so fragile. Literally, that quote lived up for nothing because Higgs, she never killed off Higgs. And for what he has done and the people that were sacrificed, regardless if he was behind the whole thing or not, to me, that justifies him being stopped and to put to rest, to die.
I feel like that was, I feel like that was the right thing to do, though. 'Cause she was trying to end that cycle of, bad stuff going on. Like, I feel like you're kind of stooping to his level if you do that. This way, he's stuck where he's at. He has to live forever, basically. And the thing is, though, even if, I guess in that location she could have killed him and then that would have been it. But then he seems like a kind of person that wants to die. So why give him that satisfaction of not having to, continue on living?
To me, that was kind of like a missed opportunity for her to say, although that's stooping to the level, that's almost like admitting that she is fragile and she doesn't want to kill him and I'm going to be the bigger person. To me, that's more like, no, you need to just end it. You need to be the badass to end it and take control again of your company like your father would have and to put an end to the terrorism. That should be what you should be, concentrating on is your company because of her father. I mean, she really got the company because of him.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of disagree with you there. Like, I think it's a lot easier to kind of give into, your craving for revenge and vengeance. And I think that being able to walk away from there and not do that and just be like, you know what? It's a better punishment for you to just sit here and think about all the stuff that you did and not have any power anymore.
Go to your room and think about what you've done.
But that's also a real life question because that's almost like scattering, that question then about, the death sentence in a way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the ultimate question. It's hard because there's two sides to this choice. And, fragile always stating that she's not so fragile. Like, yeah, okay. Like, you could take away the power source of this evil person. You can make him sit out forever. Until what?
Until he's stuck forever.
Bending powers.
Dies?
Yeah.
We're going to take away your powers. You're going to sit over there. And you're going to think about what you did, even though your mind still probably isn't going to change. And you're never going to... you still had an impact on all those people in the world that we're living in. And you still killed millions of people. And for some reason... keeping you alive and just torturing you,
but
a bigger person.
Here's a question I have, though.
Weird.
If you're put on the beach, though, and all of your paths of getting back to, I guess, the living world, are you really alive?
I want to know if they're seeing each other. Amelie and Higgs. No. Okay,
they were. I mean, he was. You see the way he was grabbing her hiney? That was ridiculous.
Oh my God, the pat on the hiney triggered me so much. I was like, you don't just pat her butt. Like, were they a thing? I was so confused. I was like,
I don't know. That was kind of weird. But
I'm sorry, the way he patted it and the sound effect was like, what?
It made me feel a little uncomfortable. But
you should have done that to Sam's butt.
Oh God. But anyway.
Yeah, I think Higgs just flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
He flew
He's
what?
just like,
2
I
coops?
never asked for this.
Yeah. But he got it. But I mean, if he's on the beach, though, I mean, that's basically being dead because you can't come back. So he is dead. He's just not a BT.
If you stick him and make sure he's stuck permanently on a beach,
maybe. I mean, he was permanently banished. So, and plus because how Fragile is very knowledgeable about beaches and all that stuff. If she says that he's like stranded on a beach, I kind of believe her.
But you see, that's the thing, though. She loved him. To me, her judgment is faltered. It's like almost like loving family. Like, is that a free? You know what I'm saying? Your judgment's going to be a little different.
Did she love him?
Yeah, she so loved him.
Are you sure?
He used to be different, and I would have done anything, and then he turned into some sort
anything.
of terrorist.
Just kidding.
Which I think they loved each other, and then Amelie stood in the way, and then that's why they don't like each other, because then Amelie's like, look at my power, look what I can do.
She's like, I got a necklace, and Sam
Higgs
made it for me.
was just a social climber.
I don't know. Like
I don't
that whole
know.
part's confusing.
We
but
need to know more.
We do, but I think that overall with the ending And just, I think the characters were very likable. I thought it was really cool seeing them all together in the same room physically, because, just hearing like all the different things about how, I guess, like people were really just kind of, underground and not communicating with each other, and they were kind of really far apart. Like seeing like the ending of the game where you see all the people there physically interacting, I thought that was really neat how they did that at the end.
And the fact that the game could be played even past. I
That
really
was
like
nice
that.
too. Yeah, being able to go 2 weeks back. Now, can you actually go and do that whole sequence again, or is that it?
Which one?
Like, can you go through that ending sequence again? Because it's
No,
2 weeks
you can
back.
only replay those 3 nightmares in your room. That's it. That's
Okay.
the only thing you can replay.
Yeah, that's okay.
But you could finish the road system and continue building things, which I think is really cool.
Hmm.
And kind of like 5-starring everything, I suppose, is what else you can do. But I honestly think that the little holograms and all the cute building and how it ends up leaking into other worlds basically is so cool. And I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, throughout the entire game, I feel like I was thoroughly entertained, and it took us months to beat this game. We started it in what, November? Is that when the game came out?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
we ended it here in February. So we played the game really slow, and honestly, doing all the side missions and stuff, if we decided to do that, we probably could have made it last a few more months.
I
And
actually
Yeah.
put 190 hours in this.
I didn't even check to see mine. It's probably close to
Well,
that.
plus we also took a break for a week or two here and there because, you don't want to just get drained on that game. You don't want
Hmm.
to just always go back to it and then just end up hating the game for absolutely no reason just because you decided to spend time
Yeah.
playing it.
And I feel like
Different pace.
this game definitely to me feels like a game that, it is way better in shorter bursts, and it's way better when you're not rushing to play it. I feel like a lot of the reviews for these games are, um, for this game is kind of skewed because it's such a rush to get it done. You're trying to meet a deadline. And I feel like a lot of people that didn't like the game were rushing to play it, and they didn't get past, the first 3 chapters. So they never really got to see what was on the other side of that when the game really opens up. And, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a disservice to both them and the game that they didn't really get to see it all the way to the end.
If you didn't complete the game, I feel like you can't really say you liked it because the story is the game. And I think that's one of these games where you could play a little bit of it, but unless you play all of it and you understand the story, because a game is a story,
Hmm.
and that's what I
I think
believe
it's
in.
kind of split between just if you like the story and you like the gameplay. You play
Yeah.
like the first maybe like 10 hours, you kind of start saying if you're gonna like the gameplay because that's how it's gonna be
Yeah,
once the
if you're
Yeah.
beginning.
not a person that plays a game for the story per se, you just want to kind of have all these cool different interactions or just run around and you're more like combat oriented, I could see why you probably wouldn't like that genre of game. So, but overall, love the game, love the ending.
Yeah. Now, I was gonna bring this up real quick. I think all of our things are dying right now. Our AirPods are dying that we're communicating with John with, and we're also running out of recording space.
You're about to lose me.
We're about to lose Kim, and we might be about to lose John, but I believe Kim wanted to bring up something that her younger brother purchased that
I don't even
didn't
know if
really
we
make
have
a lot of
time.
sense.
I don't know if we have
All
time for
right, so
this.
so the quick thing here, I'll go ahead and say it.
You should go ahead and just deliver the quick,
I'm just gonna deliver the quick.
quick short story.
Not quick anymore.
It's not quick anymore. But anyway, her younger brother has no interest in playing Death Stranding. Doesn't care about it at all. He doesn't have time to download it. Doesn't care. He purchased the collector's edition strictly for the BB, and he named it Jeff. And that's it.
That's it.
And I'm very disappointed in that.
Do you know how mad I am? Do you know how aggravating that is to see somebody who paid $200 and isn't going to play the game that's $60 laying in there, and then the BB who's sitting in there and he's just like, I'm going to name it Jeff. I'm like, do you know the story? No. I was like, how are you going to explain that to your friends that play games? Oh, no, just have it.
So we were both very disappointed, and I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was pretty ridiculous.
He named it Jeff, too. Do you see that?
Yeah.
He named it Jeff. And sure, granted, there's tons of other little BBs. I get it. But He doesn't even know the main story of Lou, which is upsetting.
Yeah, so very messed up. But overall, though, this game I thought was phenomenal, and I'm really happy that I, ended up picking it up and playing it all the way through to completion. I don't really beat a lot of games because having time to beat games is very difficult sometimes. So I'm very happy that I was able to complete it, and I think that this ending of the game and just the overall story, environment, atmosphere, I think all of it's going to stick with me for a long time. Any last words, John?
Well, thank you for Cross Country Podcast. I think we're just about done.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap this thing up, so thank you for listening in to Gamepinions episode 41, The Last Stranding. I'm sure we'll end up talking about Death Stranding at some point. But until next time, keep on, keep on.